for anything. I've never gone hungry. I've never, lived in the streets or anything like that. My parents were teenagers when I was born, but my grandparents, they stepped in. They raised me from the day I got out of the hospital, on. So, I feel like I've been kind of blessed. And probably because of my grandmother, who she was and what type of person she was, I'm very much like her, I think, is where caring about others comes into place. Because I look at the very fact that they kind of took me in when, my grandparents had 7 kids of their own. They didn't have to add an 8th, right. But they did. So I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Just when I look back at my life and how I have been really blessed, and I see others who haven't been.
Right. Okay, good. To come back to the idea of the American dream, do you see opportunities for you and for the people around you?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Absolutely. So I really feel like it's out there if you want it. And it's not even sometimes if you want it. Sometimes luck kind of does play a part of it. But yeah, there are definitely opportunities for me, for my family. Schooling, like I said, I've been blessed. I've been on my job for 16 years. I've had various positions. I've moved up and I feel like in my head, hey, if I got this job, if I got these positions, there's others out there I can get to once I do the things that I need to do in order to get them, meaning getting a degree. Things that I just need to do in order to get it. But it is out there. I think it's obtainable.
So it's out there if you want it. You said luck plays a factor, plays a part, but you gave me the impression that you don't think it's just about luck, it's about something other than that. What opportunities are available to you and to your family, do you feel?
I think opportunities as far as personal and professional growth. So personal growth, because the person I am today or the person I was 10 years ago doesn't necessarily have to stay the same person that I'll be 15 years from now. Depending on what that means, like if you're unhappy with something, it's up to you to fix it, to make yourself happy. It's not up to anybody else to fix you, to make you happy. You have to kind of work on that yourself. And then professionally, like I said, if you put the work in, and with a bit of luck, sometimes as it is, whatever job or career or whatever out there that you feel like you want, you pretty much can do it. That's always what I tell my daughter all the time as well. And then when she's in this journey, of going to school and trying to find the right place, I always tell her, get your education, because you don't want to end up in a job that you have to work in because you want to eat, Do something that is going to help you to find a career that's going to make you happy at the end of the day, and that you make a lot of money in too.
Right, sure. So, as you talk about your beliefs about sort of how the world works, it sounds to me as though you are quite self-reliant, and you feel that it's up to the individual to make their life what it needs to be. Would you agree with that? That it's it comes down to the person.
So there's a scripture in the Bible that says faith without works is dead. Meaning, yeah, you can pray and wish all day long, but you also have to do a little something to get it. You can't sit there and, oh God, please bless me with a new job, right? But you don't fill out an application. You know what I mean? If you don't fill out the application, you have 0 chances of getting that job. So you always have to do something, make a little effort, in addition to, please God, can you please bless me? It all kind of works together.
Right. So wishing is not enough. Do you think the system works fairly for everybody?
I actually do. I think everybody has the same shot. Now, do some people have to work a little harder sometimes? Absolutely, yes. But I think that you still have the same shot if you're willing to do the work.
So why do some people have to work a little harder sometimes?
I think sometimes it's just circumstances. Like you might, because of your circumstances, like for instance, if my grandparents hadn't taken me in, you know, who knows where I would end up, because my mother, like I said, she was a teenager. So if those circumstances hadn't played out the way they did, if I stayed with my mom, I think my life would have been very different from what it turned out to be. So I would have had to work a little harder than I actually did being in the circumstances I was with my grandparents. Mm-hmm. So I think fate, circumstances, whatever you want to call it, plays a part into why some people have to work a little harder than someone who's born into a wealthy family, or, you know, whatever it may be.
Right. I mean, it's interesting, you know, as you talk, you know, you talked about, you know, having teenage parents, mm-hmm. Being born in a neighborhood that wasn't that safe, mm-hmm. And you're in a situation now where you have, you know, children in college, you have your own home, you have a job for 16 years, you're married. Mm-hmm. Did you have to work hard to get to make those things happen? I mean, what did that demand of you to make all of those things happen? That were not foregone conclusions, right?
I think it demanded not being selfish, because at a certain point, it wasn't about just me. So, you know, the younger me couldn't go out and partying, couldn't go out and have fun, couldn't, you know, do a lot of things like that, because I had responsibilities and things that I wanted to attain that wouldn't necessarily happen if it was just about me and what I wanted to do and what was going to make me feel good at the time.
So what did you tell yourself when you felt like partying but didn't? What did you tell yourself?
Well, at that time I had my son, and it was like, I have this baby, and who's going to take care of him if not me? So that was the basis of it at that time.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's switch gears again. Mm-hmm. I want to talk a bit about the homework that you were asked to think about. And really, it was mainly just thinking about something. Mm-hmm. So I think you were asked, if I'm remembering it correctly, to think about a point in your life when you tried to achieve something that seemed like it might be challenging, that was maybe just a bit beyond your reach. Can you tell me what you chose?
That down. I actually kind of answered that question earlier. I wrote in here about learning to drive.
Okay.
That was, like I said, it was a challenge for me because I was just nervous. Like, I would sit in the passenger side when my husband or my aunt, whoever it was driving, and I had my emergency imaginary brakes that I found myself pressing on. You know, they're going too fast. Like, I was so nervous. Like, it was terrible. So he got sick. I learned how to drive. I took the test the first time and I failed it. So I said to myself, I'm gonna do it one more time. If I don't pass this test, that's it. I'm done, because I was physically feeling sick taking this test. I was so nervous. And as luck would have it, when I went the second time to take this driving exam, I had the same examiner from the first time around. And so he wasn't very nice. You know, he wasn't, you know, mean or nasty. He just wasn't nice. You know, he had zero personality. So we actually took the whole test. He said nothing to say, you know, you passed, you failed, nothing. He was just like poker face. So I'm sitting there like, did I pass? You know, what happened? He never said it until we got back to the driver exam place, and we got inside, and then he handed my papers to the person that counted. Oh, you passed. I was like, oh my God. Oh.
That's a very tough way to deal with a person.
God, yes.
He made you suffer until that.
He really did.
So this is your challenge, right? So I want to understand this because actually, what's interesting about this question is that it's revealing about a person, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So the first thing that's interesting to me is that you were a nervous passenger. And what's up with that? Why did you have this imaginary brake pedal?
It was involuntary. It was. I don't know what it was, but I'm sitting there and I'm just. I don't know. I really think it was my grandmother. We were very close, and I'm just so much like her, and that is how she was. And I think a lot of her nervousness about a lot of things really just were in me. So that's how she was. That's how I was.
Did you? I mean, were you ever in a car accident, or was someone else?
I was in two, nothing major, very very minor. But even beyond that, like before those, I was just a nervous passenger. I'm like, oh my God, you're driving too fast. Slow down, slow down, slow down.
So, okay, so it wasn't like a big kind of car wreck or something that created that. But some people would be a nervous passenger and just leave it at that and just say, that is not in my future. Driving is not in my future. I can't even be, passengers without being anxious. But you didn't say that. You said...
At first, that was me. Like, I did not want to have anything to do with driving. So throughout the years, I've had my permit maybe 5 times. I would do that. I would always take the permit test. I would pass that. But then I would never take the next step to actually learn how to drive. I did, probably when I was in my mid-20s, I hired a driving instructor, somebody to come and teach me. I took 1 lesson, and that was the end of it.
What happened?
He put me on 95. That was it for me. I was not ready. I was very nervous. I couldn't handle it.
Wow, it's straight on to 95. Huh? That's like throwing a baby in the pool.
Yeah, exactly. So that didn't work out. Okay. That didn't work out. Then I had a friend who tried to teach me once. We did 1 lesson. It was just not happening. And I had gotten to the point where in my head I was like, well, I'm just not meant to drive. I can't do it. I can't. Until my husband ended up getting sick.
And so you told me that your husband got sick, but something seemed to change because at some point you tried here and you tried there and it didn't work, and the instructor didn't work, and you got your permit but you didn't keep going. But something clicked, something changed. Tell me about that. Like what went on to get you from someone who didn't learn to drive to someone who became serious about it? What happened?
I think just when he got sick and the fact that I couldn't do anything for him other than make a phone call, and in my head I'm like, precious time is ticking. Like, if he was really, really sick like that, if I could drive, I could get him into the car and have him on the way to the hospital by the time, help got to the house to get to him. So I think that's when that happened, and I felt so helpless. Because I am so independent, that feeling of helplessness, I couldn't stand it. And that's when I was like, okay, just for emergencies, I'm going to get my license. I want to learn how to drive. So that's how that came to play.
So 2 things seem to happen. One is that it was hard for you to live with a feeling of helplessness when you think of yourself as an independent person. And those 2 things didn't seem to go together. They were pulling. And the other thing is, it seems like the thing that really got you kind of over the hump was the desire to take care of another person. Is that I can be useful to another person if I do this. Back to this idea of helping other people.
I didn't think, but yes, actually, I didn't even think about that.
You can tell me I'm wrong, but it seems to me that the difference was I need to be there for my husband. I need to be able to help him.
That's exactly what it was.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. And then I'm also interested in, some people would take their test the first time and fail and just say, right, that's it, I'm done. But you didn't. You came back. Tell me what you drew upon to bring you back to have a second shot.
I think by that point I had invested so much into it. I didn't just want to have done all that for nothing. And the other part of that was my husband bought me a car for when I got my license.
Oh, wow.
So at this point, I'm like, I have a car that I can't drive. I have to get this license now.
Okay.
So.
All right. So you had invested a bunch of time, and then your husband had invested in a physical, actual car. All right. Did you ever feel that I just can't do this? Did you ever feel on this journey to get your license? Did you ever feel like I'm just going to quit? I just can't do this.
A lot. Like especially in the beginning, those very first lessons. So when I started learning this time, again, I hired a driving school, and we went out on one lesson. My husband actually came with us. He sat in the back seat. I didn't like this guy at all, this driving instructor. I just didn't like him. I don't know why, but my husband, he was in the back. He didn't like him either. He was like, I'm just going to teach you myself. And I don't know why we didn't think to do that in the first place. I don't know what that was, but spent the money on that first lesson, and then we both came to the conclusion of, you know what, he's going to teach me. So yeah, I don't know. That's just how that played out.
So tell me about the moment when you realised you had passed. Here's this thing that you've been shooting for some time, and I guess the moment you realised was when the examiner handed in the papers and said she's passed. Just tell me about what was going through your mind. How were you feeling? What
Relief.
Were you thinking? Relief.
Like, oh my goodness. This is over, because like I said, if I hadn't passed that second time, I don't think I would have tried it anymore. Like, car or not, I don't know what we would have done with that, but I didn't want any parts of this again. Like, I was really, like, it was bad. Like, my stomach was hurting. I was feeling like I was going to throw up. I've never felt that amount of nervousness for anything else in all my life. It was terrible. So when I finally passed, it was like just the biggest relief ever. Like ever, and happiness. Like, dang, I was 39, I think, at that point. I was like, I finally did this.
Was part of it that you were not, an 18-year-old who just passed, but a 39-year-old? I mean, was that how big of a factor was that?
A really, really big factor, I think. I think that the older you are, is certain things are harder to do. I think when you're younger, you have less fear than when you're older for whatever reason. So I think that played a big part of my fear, my nervousness also. So, and also I was like, I always want better for my kids. So I was like, I don't want them to be 39 getting their license one day. I want them to go ahead and get it now. Neither one of them has done it yet, but I keep writing my son about it. So he's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm like, okay.
Is it important for your children to see you acting in a certain way, accomplishing certain things? Tell me about that. I want to be an example as much as I can for them. I think that we tend to mimic a lot of what we see in life sometimes. Like how I always say, I'm my grandmother. I am very much like how she was. That's what I saw, and that's who I kind of became. Now, am I my own person? Of course, but I have a lot of her traits and characteristics. So knowing that, I try to be a certain person, if you will, for my kids, because I want to be somebody that they can be proud of and look up to and be like, my mom did this, that, and the third, and that's something I want to do as well. Tell me about this, that, and the third. What would be some of the things that you've tried to be a role model or just a model for your children? Just
being a good person, I think, is the biggest thing. Having them know that it's not just about you. You are not alone in this world. It's not just about you. I think is the biggest thing I try to have them see.
Would there be, in terms of accomplishments, would there be things that you sort of consciously or unconsciously have tried to accomplish because you wanted your children to see someone close to them accomplish those things?
I think working and like I said, I've had several different positions. I've moved up in my job and things like that. I that's a big part of what I want them to see. Like go for your goal, shoot for it. Even like when I got a supervisory position at my job, I didn't think that I would get it because I didn't have a degree and things like that, but I went for it. I got it. So things like that, I want them to see, like, dream big and take a shot at it. Like last night, me and my daughter were having a conversation. I said, "Did you apply to Penn?" She said, I won't get in. I'm like, "How do you know? Try it. What are you going to lose?" So I'm like, dream big and go for it.
Right. Excellent. Very good. One of the sort of homework questions was to ask you to see if you can find an image or images that capture how you feel about ambition. Were you able to find anything?
So I kind of did.
Great.
It's the day I got my license. This is a terrible picture.
It's all right.
And that's me in front of the car with the license at the place.
Do you want to hold it up so we get on the camera?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can really see, our printer is horrible.
That's all right. So tell me about that picture. Why is that an important picture that exemplified ambition for you?
Because this was after I had finally gotten that license that I worked so hard for such a long time. I was relieved and I felt like I had accomplished something that I had been striving for a long time. So I think that's what that's about.
If I came here in the future, this is a hard question, but if I came here in the future and asked you to show me the image that the next image, what's the next image going to be? Maybe you haven't taken it yet, right?
Yeah.
But what's in the next image for you? The next ambition that you realize?
Me and my degree, of course.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
not Arizona. So it's not moving to Arizona.
No.
It's not meeting new people. Some of the things you talked about. It's getting your degree. Tell me about that. Why is that your next sort of future goal, future ambition?
That's my one big regret, is not doing that, not getting that degree and completing that, because it's something that I wanted to do for myself, but that's my grandparents. They wanted that for me so badly. My grandmother's not here anymore, so she won't get to see it. But just for my kids, even still too, that I might not have done it when I was 21, 22, when I should have done it, but it is a dream for me, and you got to reach for your dreams. You have to at least try to obtain those things. So that's important to me. Like, they might have theirs first, but I still want to be able to be like, I did do this.
Do you feel that you have some quality now that you didn't have then that will get you there?
I do. I think more determination now than I did then. I gave up very quickly. Then I only took my first year, and then that was it, because I felt like I don't feel like this. It's hard, and so now I don't have that in me any longer, because I've been through a lot of hard things, and I know that I'm able to get past it if I just stick in with it a little longer.
So what experiences have you had? You said I've been through a lot of hard things. What experiences have you had that you hadn't had then that you can draw upon now?
Oh man, like I think when I lost my grandmother was the biggest one. I didn't think I would get past that for a long time. So now, it's been 13 years. And I'm still sad about it, but I'm not, crippled by it the way I was for a while then. So I got past that. I got past things like in the workplace where, I didn't when I first started working at Penn, I never imagined I'd be there 16 years later. Because, there's a lot of nonsense that goes on there. But, here I am. And I feel like I'll be there at least 5 more years. So I can persevere. I can outlast circumstances.
Right. It sounds like, so I can persevere, I can outlast circumstances. It sounds like your feeling is that if you, as a person, if you work hard, then good things will come to you. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would.
That I just need to sort of buckle down and put the effort in, and I can do the things that I need to do.
Work hard, put the effort in, and don't give up at the first sign of trouble or struggle. Like that's, I think, the initial reaction. This is too hard. I'm not going to do it. And I think if you quit at that point, the first sign that, this is maybe not as easy as I thought, you miss out on a lot of good stuff.
Okay. Good. So don't quit at the first kind of hurdle. Right? Okay. All right. Excellent.
See how big that next hurdle is.
Right.
Then decide if you're going to quit.
So I'm going to ask to wander around your house with you, and you just talk to me about some of the things in your home that are important, that tell me about your life.
Okay.
In a moment, for just a couple more minutes. When you were asked to take part, I think they asked you a whole bunch of different questions, and whether you agreed or disagreed with them. I want to just stop and ask you about a couple of those. I think one of the questions that you agreed with was, I like to try new products before other people try them. Would that be right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So I am, I like electronics and cookware. So I like to kind of be the first one, especially with my husband. Like I want to do things first, so I can say, "Hey, look what I have, and look what I found out," and I bet you didn't know. So it's kind of a competition, if you will, between me and him, especially to be the first one to do things. So that's really what it is.
Can you give me an example?
Like for instance, when I got my phone.
What kind of phone?
Last year, it was this one. It's a Galaxy 8
right.
or whatever. So he had a very crappy phone. We both did at that time. So I got the new phone, and then he, look what I have, blah blah blah. And so he went out and got the same exact phone.
So you got a little bit of a contest there going on. What's the contest about? Like how come you're competing with each other?
I don't even know. I don't know. I think it keeps us young. I think. Because certain things, like with the electronics especially, that's a kid's game, if you will. Like I remember when I was like my kid's age, and my grandparents used to come to me, how do you set the time, how do you whatever, how do you do this? I used to be the go-to person for that, and now I'm finding more and more I go to my kids, especially my son, like, wait, how do you do this? So I think with my husband, I'm like, it makes us feel like, we're still on the younger side.
Right. Okay. Good. Interesting. Do you feel that you like to have new products before people other than your husband has them? I mean, is there a sense of like wanting to be the first person in the office at work to have something, or in your peer group with friends?
A little, but not as much. Like along my circle of friends, like, okay, for instance, it always comes back to the phone. My friend at work, she went out and got the Note that I wanted, the Galaxy Note. So I was like, man, I wanted that phone, and you went out and got it first. So I was mad with her about that, and she knew I wanted that phone. But no, not mad like that, but just like, I should have been the one to get that first.
Okay, and we don't want to come back to talking about this desire to have the latest or things before other people when it comes back to when it fits with your car, right? So we'll talk about cars, I promise. So let's keep that in mind when we come to talk about cars, and whether that's something that you look for in a car or not. So could you take us on a short tour of your home? and tell us a bit about, so you've painted a picture for me of yourself as someone who, has wanted to build a home, take care of your family.
Yeah.
You have ambitions for your kids, for yourself. Think about the things that we've been talking about, and tell me about some of the things in your house that perhaps fit with some of the things that we've been discussing.
Well, I think in this room is where it all kind of ties in. You see the pictures on the wall. So this wall is just the kids.